Did you guys know that most of the heightened or super formations, large igneous provinces, are right here in North America? Do you guys know that? Do you know what that means? For example, not to mention Yellowstone, right? I'm not talking about Yellowstone. There are 16 mega structures in North America that could destroy this earth. They are mass extinction event calderas and volcanoes and formations, and we have some serious upswellings. And so all that data is being tracked because, as I said before, we're going to entertain. The fires are soon to begin. Fires everywhere are soon to begin. And, this goes all the way up to Canada. In fact, Canada has a formation that could actually undo the entire earth. It could spit ash, probably up to 13 cubic kilometers all over the place. Man, it's about 7 feet of ash everywhere. That's what that is. And it has these igneous provinces are being located all over the planet. And this is as of the last 2 years, specifically this year. These are essentially large heat plumes, mushroom clouds, if you will, underneath the surface of the earth. And they're forming. This activity is increasing. It's off the charts. You can often, because the earth and the sun are tied together so much, in other words, we can observe changes on the sun, right? We can observe that. And that gives us a clue as to what's happening inside the earth. All of you know that the sun is having some irregular activity, and it has been for the last, several years. The last year itself being one of the most notable times. It's had some pretty quirky activity. And right now, these external influences upon the earth and our solar system, they're affecting the planets as well as the sun, which we can observe in a big way. So the earth is becoming extremely active internally, right? Some of the samples of the felsic rocks, well, I'm not going into detail on that, but these are essentially volcanic rocks that come from explosions, and, they give good insight to mantle plumes or some people like to track the plate theory, but mantle plumes is a better word for it. The heat is in a certain province I can't mention yet because it's not really clear. It's already killed or destroyed 364 acres, and it's spreading. And that's of the last 8 days, I believe. In 8 days, it killed about 360 miles, about 360 miles of vegetation. Yeah. All right. So we boy, do we have some things going on. It's good that people are educated about Yellowstone, but I don't know if you guys know about the last two issues with Yellowstone, but it gives you insight into some of the scenarios that we're facing now. And actually, La Palma is a baby compared to some of these super formations I'm talking about, because Japan right now is very active. It's waking up. You have some under the sea that are, in fact, these will cover the earth when they're done doing what they have to do. But our earth is changing so fast, right? And from the skies, some of the indications are becoming so notable that you're about to hear a few announcements of caution from Homeland Security and other agencies, which is going to make this real for everybody else. They start announcing or issuing advisories because of these things. That makes it real for a lot of people. It's not going to be real naturally until people experience this, which means a lot of water is going to be displaced during the time of the fires. That's going to be during the time of the fires, and that's coming fairly soon. So, and then of course some of the monster volcanoes around the earth. Lots of eyes are watching this. Colorado right now is being watched. What is that one called? La Guarida, that's in Colorado. Wawa Springs is in Utah. It's very close. They're being watched because they're showing signs of swelling. All right. Mount Toba, you guys are familiar with that, and Mount Topa, you guys are familiar with that. These are ones in New Zealand, the other one's in Indonesia. Now, the one in Indonesia is it put about 74,000 kilometers of ash all over the place. So it is that's a big one, and it still has a lot of built up material inside. We have temperature fluctuations that are enormous in the earth right now, and water is escaping. And this is a trigger for volcanoes, by the way. When you have superheated water, all of a sudden it breaches certain types of rock. You just have lava and superheated water breaking its way to the surface by melting of rock at a very fast pace and under an enormous amount of pressure, and then everything starts going up. So the measurements of some of the swells that are taking place are just close to eruption point. And we're not talking about these last volcanoes. You know, when you're looking at the volcanic scale, which, by the way, is logarithmic, so everything is, if you have a, V1, V2, all these things, they are 10 times greater than the one before it. That's saying something. When you have these are VE8 and VE9 capable volcanoes. Okay. Yellowstone would be a VE8, not a VE9. The one in Canada would be a VE9. That's VE9 capable. The Andean Central Volcanic Zone in Chile is VE9 capable. Okay, that's formation of active spots, right? You're talking about an igneous province that's pretty huge there. That's a VE9 plus capable. That's a global killer, right? These are potentials, not exactly what they'll do. Colorado, Bolivia. Bolivia is a VE9 also. So if it went, it has a potential, right, to do a lot of damage. One in Colorado spans quite a bit of territory. These, by the way, are considered supervolcanoes and above. All of these are right here on Earth. Most of the supervolcanic structures are in North America. You only have the one in Chile, of course, Bolivia. You have one in New Zealand, Indonesia. The rest are in North America. And there are about 55 superstructures in North America alone. One of the ones I have my eye on is in Chile, because they have some issues down there. They're becoming very active. If you were to look at a map and look at all the active volcanoes around the Pacific Rim, the Ring of Fire, you would see the whole place is lit up all the way around. Now, something is influencing the plates so much that the entire ring is now active. Sitting inside that ring, like Yellowstone is not found on a fault line, right? Yellowstone is found on the interior, away from, fault zones. So, but you have some real monsters like Tamamassif, and you have two more overseas. One sitting at the lip of Italy. In fact, that entire seaport is active in the Mediterranean. That also has some very active parts. There's a pretty large volcano in Africa. I'm not really worried about that one because recently it split and is causing a new ocean to form in the African continent, which will likely split that continent over 10 years or so. So that's splitting up. So we have this hyperactivity going on all over the earth. That's just on the geological side. We have atmospheric issues as well, because the chemistry of the atmosphere is changing incredibly fast due to these volcanoes. Let's face it, they're putting out lots of debris. Lots of gases are flowing into the atmosphere, and things are changing quick. It was found that there are atmospheric dips in several places on the Earth sustained dips, meaning in those areas they're going to experience super dry times and super winds will be blowing through those places. In fact, in certain parts of the earth, there's a capability of sustained 115-mile-an-hour winds without a lower high being close together, causing isobars. That's normally when you have straight line winds that are pretty quick. Now that the atmosphere is compressed, I'll say super compressed in these areas, the wind speeds can be sustained because the atmosphere is not repairing itself fast enough with these active volcanoes. This is an ongoing cycle. And on top of this is down here on Earth with all this management going on around the Earth is just not going so good. Why are all the countries in the middle of a food crisis? Why are all the countries in the middle of a shipping crisis? And why is everybody still preparing vigorously for war? They're preparing for war. So I hope that you guys have your eyes open. We have a lot of talks to go through about some very in-depth subjects, not so shallow as we've been having, because it's no good to put a lot of details into a conversation when no one has context or just simply can't believe the happenings that will circulate around those subjects. There's no need to talk about that without some reference. But now we have references. Better start to form. This winter, you guys are going to see a big reference concerning ice, snow, the winds, and water. And fire will inevitably follow. This summer coming up is going to be very dangerous for a lot of people. So fire could be, one of the greatest threats mankind could ever have. And with wind speeds being at higher levels with fires, that's just not a good combination. By the way, do you know what happens when large parts of the U.S., large parts of different land masses begin to burn? You form a convection current in the atmosphere, which then it accelerates weather disturbances. So instead of a storm that would have 50-mile-an-hour winds, you could have a storm that has 200-mile-an-hour winds, so on and so forth. That dry air mixed with low pressures causes massive instabilities, enough that I believe this year large parts of the earth are going to burn. And so you're looking at large atmospheric changes. Now, the jet stream has already changed once, and it's starting to do that again. Some of the same patterns that led up to the last change in the jet stream are happening again. In fact, some of the images, we start looking at the modeled wind data, match what was happening a long time ago. Now it's estimated because they didn't have instruments to actually do that back then. So all of the some of the patterns are estimated back then, but they match the modeling exactly. So get ready for a severe change in atmospherics. That's going to be a surprise, and it won't be good for crops anywhere in the world because it's going to cause a whole new set of events. For example, bugs, right? Bugs. This year alone, there are 121 species of spiders that were found in the U.S. that are just simply not supposed to be here. They are bound to our southern hemisphere because of temperatures and environmental conditions, but they're found now as far north as Canada. So Canada is having different species of bugs show up. And because they have no natural predators, right? You can't, like a bird. Birds will eat spiders, right? Digest them, and that's the end of that. Well, there are certain spiders only certain types of birds can eat. And if they have no natural predators, in far north in America, then they're going to flourish. And in fact, that's what they've been doing. There's a type of there's one of the spiders in the recluse family has been found in North America, and it's multiplying by leaps and bounds. These things, spiders, in the wintertime, they just simply stop moving. You guys know that, don't you? They just stop moving, and they're very difficult to spot. So, but in the summer when it gets hot, they begin to activate again, and there you have it. We're having issues with those spiders. And keep in mind, in the news, they showed you the spider webs that were covering miles and miles and miles of territory, when the little tiny spiders took flight. So, yeah, we've got some changes to track, and education is going to be very important, so you guys are aware of these things. Now, it also opens up a brand new can of worms, folks, because here's what you're going to face. You're going to have people out there on the internet with so many different theories and opinions that people, their minds are going to be fractured even further. It's going to cause some type of paranoia towards all these subjects, because people actually believe, based upon somebody's speech, based upon how perfect it is, based upon how factual it sounds, they will actually believe the information and start living their lives by that information. The problem is what's happening in the earth is fluid. It's always changing. It's not constant. And the Bible is a good basis to keep track of things that are really happening, that really matter, so that you don't get caught in one specific conversation or a subject, and then something else happens to you right or to your left. But we're covering that too, so that people are not really thrown off by things, right? Meteor storm. Get ready for those forecasts. Meteor storms coming out big time, because we're just entering into a different phase of life for mankind, and from time to time, life changes for everybody, right? I mean, life changes. The field of AI is ever growing. Certain bills were passed giving technical companies, leeway to go ahead and implement some of the ideas they've had for the last 50 years. AI being part of those plans as of late is going to cause these massive changes in our tech fields. So get ready for some new ways to bank, some new ways to drive, some new ways to fly, some new ways to do just about everything. They're going to try and make all this efficient. And the old way of doing things is burning out. Now, this happens with cultural change all the time. All the time. You guys remember when your parents, they couldn't understand why you listened to the music you listened to, right? Well, probably some of you guys can't understand why your children listen to what they listen to. But these are cultural changes. The only difference is now the culture is moving so fast as far as change itself. With the advent of AI and decent working computers, things are going to be much faster. They're going to evolve much faster, far faster than ever before. So every week is going to be a jump, in how things function, how we operate, versus a gradual change. It just seems like nothing has a gradual change anymore. Everything has a quick, direct change that's taking place. And get ready for the new leadership in most of these countries. There's a brand new generation out there waiting in the shadows to go ahead and take power. Many of these countries, people with ideologies that you're not familiar with, and they are, I would call them fast thinkers, right? That's what I call them. But they will further shift everybody into a brand new paradigm. So this old way of government that it'll be known by, it's going to be gone bye-bye. Get ready for the real manifestation of the end days. I mean the real one, as in real leadership, a real different way to live your life. And this will be done by some real geniuses. I say that sarcastically because in most cases people make these changes not knowing the eventualities of what they do, what it's going to result in. We do by reading the Word of God, because all prophecies are going to come to pass, every single last one. And more now than ever, it seems that if you sleep or wink, you just missed a month's worth of activities. That's what it feels like. That's how fast things are moving, right? Which is why it's good to simplify your lives. I'm going to try to make it so people focus on the critical biblical things. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? Not so much paying attention to every single little change out there in the world, right? Have those presentable, yes, but to keep pace with some of the major traction points in prophecy, some of the ones that are not usually mentioned. Now, what it takes is for a person to be non-biased. You can't be blinded by things of the world. So it takes a person to really separate from the world to see what's going on in the world. If you're looking at the world from a worldly perspective, you're going to see it just like everybody else does, right? You step back from all that. You start looking at the world, well, in a different way, non-biased. You're not part of anything, not for or against anything, but taking a very objective look at the world. You can actually see what's going on. And that is to say, to really take a spiritual look at things, all right, for the sake of others, not to save your own skin. That's just like me. I don't look at these events of the world to save my own skin. No. I don't like to see people caught up in very surprising times. I've seen that too much. And it's not good to behold. It's not good to see. Not good to see when people did not expect war. Overseas in the Middle East, of course, they had lots of wars there. I've seen too many families over there burned to death, and people that just didn't expect things to get so bad. I've seen certain situations here in the U.S. where people didn't expect things to get so bad, right? So if someone could go out and educate them, which a lot of people do, and gave them foundational scriptures and biblical viewpoint of things, they would be far better equipped versus those who blindly believe all these things in the world, right? So if that is extracted, illustrated, explained with simple terminology, making it referenceable, I think it would give everybody a better insight into some of the massive changes that are happening in this world, right? For example, leadership. In politics, leadership is now corporate. Do you know that? Leadership is not bound to politicians who are elected by people, but in fact, the politicians have become spokesmen for some very powerful corporations. Now, these corporations are not like the other ones of old. 10 years ago, the world was not dependent upon any corporation. You cannot say that today. And that's so sad. It's a lot of power being wielded by these corporations. These corporations control the mindsets of many.